Great Lakes are frozen, most of them well into the high 90%. It's a record freezing of the Great Lakes. We've got Niagara Falls frozen. We even have, as Drudge reports, the Washington, D.C. subway rails have fractured from the cold. There's also articles saying these are the coldest temperatures we've seen since the 1800s. Guess what? That's when we started keeping records. Most places weren't even keeping records in the 1800s. That's how little we know about temperature data. But of course, that doesn't stop us from going off on a jag and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. As we had a story that's still up on Infowars.com, came out late yesterday from Kit Daniels. After a blizzard closes the campus, Harvard spends $800,000 to combat global warming, even though they're concerned that students are falling behind because they're missing so many classes due to snow. They point out, I guess, this is irony 101 for Harvard. There's an old saying, you know, you can, experience is an expensive school, but it's the only one a fool will attend. But that's what they're finding out in Harvard right now. They're going to spend nearly $1 million to combat global warming, but they can't even get to class because it's so cold. Look, we've got decreased solar activity. We've got increased CO2 activity. Their models don't work. If the CO2 is going up, according to their models, the temperature should be going down. It's not man-made. It's because of solar activity that's predominating on this. And we can see that if you don't put the thermometers in cities and on airports, you can see if you look from space that the temperatures are, in fact, going down. And that all plays into a study that was reported by Harvard's competitor, Yale. It's a new study by Yale University professor Dan Kahan that confirmed that skeptics of the controversial anthropogenic, in other words, man-made, global warming theory, or as realists often call themselves, skeptics, he found out that they know more about this theory than the people who support it. They surveyed 2,000 people, and they found out that people that are labeled as deniers, because, see, this is a religion to the global warmists, okay? Deniers actually knew more about what the other guys said they believed in this particular study. Very interesting, I think. We're going to go to a report from Rob Dew about vaccines. It was on the nightly news last night. A very important report. But before we do, I want to let you know that this hour of the Alex Jones Show is brought to you by the products that we sell at InfoWarsLife.com. This month we have a special on super male and super female vitality through the month of February, 20% off. You'll also find at InfoWarsLife.com 15% off Pro Pure water filters. And we have a special to introduce our new supplement, Ancient Defense. You get one of those for free whenever you buy 2 Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine. That's right. Buy 2 Survival Shield X2, get 1 Ancient Defense for free. You'll find that at InfoWarsLife.com. Now, as I pointed out in the last segment, we're going to have Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, who had her, first they tried to bar her from entering the country. They were demanding that she not be allowed to even enter the country to talk about her concerns about mandatory vaccines, her concerns about the efficacy and the safety of these vaccines. When they were not successful in barring her from the country, the next tactic that they took was to threaten violence against the venues where she was going to be speaking. We had reports on this at the end of January. She has now canceled that. She's in the United States. She's going to be joining us on the program in the next hour so you can hear what was so threatening to the pharmaceutical powers that be in Australia. You can hear that in the next hour. We're going to talk to her. She's going to make her case, tell people what she would have told them in Australia. And it's going to go out over the airwaves, so tell your friends about it. Let's go to Rob Dew's report about vaccines and how we're being lied to by our government and the CDC.
Yes, these men and their hypnotized followers call this a new order. It is not new, and it is not order.
Hey guys, Rob Dew from Infowars.com and Infowars Nightly News, and I have a follow-up to the lengthy report that I put out just a couple days ago on the Alex Jones channel and on Prison Planet TV. That report is currently going viral, and I encourage you to watch it. I'll put a link to that report at the end of this one. But here I want to focus on Dr. Ann Schuchat. She's the director of the National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Diseases at the CDC, and she was the one being interviewed by Senator Elizabeth Warren when they had that beautiful exchange of how vaccines were so safe and effective, and that there was no credible science anywhere on the planet that could say otherwise. Definitely running cover for Big Pharma. So I wanted to take a look at Dr. Shukit, specifically her past, to see where she came from. I hadn't really seen much of her looking at vaccines in the past, but she was out there, especially back in 2009-2010 flu season during the H1N1 scare, where they were trying to get everybody to get the H1N1 vaccine. And I found a couple of transcripts from press conferences that she released. This one's from November 12, 2009, where she says, the immunization efforts with this supply continue to be focused on the target population priority groups: pregnant women, healthcare workers, children and young adults up to 24 and adults 25 to 64 with chronic conditions, and parents and other caretakers with small children and children under 6 months of age. But what I'm specifically interested in is what she talks about in the beginning of that priority group section. It is pregnant women. Now, I hold here in my hot little hand the influenza virus vaccine Fluzone, and this is from 2009-2010 formula. This is an old insert that I was able to get back then. Here it says, under use in specific populations, safety and effectiveness of Fluzone have not been established in pregnant women or nursing mothers or children under 6 months of age. So here in the insert, it says it's not even recommended for pregnant women. It hasn't even been studied on pregnant women or young children or nursing mothers. Flip it over on the back, and it says this. Under Section 8, use in specific populations, pregnancy. Animal reproduction studies have not been conducted with Fluzone vaccine. It is not known whether Fluzone can cause fetal harm when administered to a pregnant woman or affect reproduction capacity. Fluzone vaccine should be given to a pregnant woman only if clearly needed. Under 8.3, nursing mothers, it is not known whether Fluzone vaccine is excreted in human milk. Because many drugs are excreted in human milk, caution should be exercised when Fluzone vaccine is administered to a nursing woman. So in two different spots in this insert from the same year where Dr. Shukit was out there promoting it, that pregnant women should get this vaccine, it says it should not be given and it has not been tested on pregnant women. There you go. Once again, the CDC pushing dangerous chemicals and adjuvants and vaccines on people and on groups that they shouldn't even be targeting. And this is the insert that comes from the maker of the vaccine Fluzone, dated 2009-2010. So maybe in November 2009, she hadn't got that information yet. Well, here she is in January on video during a press conference, specifically targeting pregnant women and nursing mothers. Here's that clip.
This is a concerted effort of the CDC, Health and Human Services, and all of our partners to encourage vaccination. It includes a focus on people at high risk for complications, adults with emphysema, diabetes, cancer, children, pregnant women, and seniors. Really a focus on encouraging vaccination for anyone who hasn't yet been vaccinated and wants to be. Vaccine is still important for pregnant women and for postpartum women. They've had terrible complications from this flu virus, and although many have been vaccinated, we know others haven't, and we do encourage vaccination of pregnant and postpartum women.
And doing my research in this 2009 swine flu epidemic, I also recalled the one that happened in the 70s. And this is one that we have lots of documentation of, especially of the dangerous effects of the vaccine.
Swine flu? Man, I'm too fast to let it catch me.
In fact, 60 Minutes did a report on it, and here's a couple clips.
Remember the swine flu scare of 1976? That was the year the U.S. government told us all that swine flu could turn out to be a killer that could spread across the nation. Well, 46 million of us obediently took the shot. And now 4,000 Americans are claiming damages from Uncle Sam amounting to $3.5 billion because of what happened when they took that shot. By far the greatest number of the claims, 2/3 of them, are for neurological damage or even death.
So this vaccine was endorsed by the president. They used several other actor endorsements, including Mary Tyler Moore. And when she was asked by 60 Minutes, she had this to say.
Mary, did you take a swine flu shot?
No, I did not.
Did you give them permission to use your name saying that you had or were going to?
Absolutely not. Never did.
Did you ask your own doctor about taking the swine flu shot?
Yes, and at the time he thought it might be a good idea. But I resisted it because I was leery of having the symptoms that sometimes go with that kind of inoculation.
And when the head of the CDC was asked about this, here's what he had to say.
Let me read to you from one of your own agency's memos planning the campaign to urge Americans to take the shot. The swine flu vaccine has been taken by many important persons, he wrote. Example, President Ford, Henry Kissinger, Elton John, Muhammad Ali, Mary Tyler Moore, Rudolph Nureyev, Walter Cronkite, Ralph Nader, Edward Kennedy, etc., etc. True?
I'm not familiar with that particular piece of paper, but I do know that at least of that group, President Ford did take the vaccination.
Did you talk to these people beforehand to find out if they planned to take the shot?
I did not know.
Did anybody?
I do not know.
Did you get permission to use their names in your campaign?
I do not know.
So around 500 people developed Guillain-Barré syndrome, and at least 25 people died as a result of the vaccine. And that year, there were only 200 cases of swine flu reported, and ultimately only 1 death. So there you go. You see the CDC once again scaring the population into getting vaccines and injecting themselves with these chemicals, and then just kind of backing away. Oh,